Have you ever wondered why some people, despite not having an Ivy League finance degree, have the ability to smell risk from a mile away? Or why someone who once lost everything can rebuild their empire faster than anyone else?
Today, we aren't going to talk about IQ or EQ. We're going to talk about a rare kind of capability forged in the furnace of extreme hardship. I call it traumatic intelligence. I want you to imagine a Friday night in Manhattan. David, an old friend of mine, is raising a glass of champagne at an elite party. David earns $250,000 a year and has just invested all of his savings into a real estate project promised to be impossible to lose. David is very smart. He has an MBA, he's great at math, and he's always optimistic. But looking at that project, I, Tony, felt a jolt of electricity run down my spine. It's not because I'm better at math than David, but because I have something he doesn't. A past where I went bankrupt and had to live in my car for 6 months. While David saw a 20% return, I saw the loopholes in the contract, the subtle signs of anxiety from the project owner, and a gut feeling about an upcoming recession. In the end, that project collapsed. David lost everything, and me? I had pulled my capital out a week before. This wasn't luck. This was the first sign of traumatic intelligence. Many people think that painful experiences in the past, especially regarding money, only leave scars. But for a select few, those scars turn into a kind of sixth sense. They possess one of the rarest forms of intelligence, where the brain is restructured to survive and win in the harshest environments. Why do most people make the same financial mistakes? Because their brains are programmed to seek comfort. But if you've been through adversity, your brain has been reprogrammed to seek the truth. Today, I'm going to reveal 10 signs that you possess this type of intelligence. These are signs that even self-made millionaires rarely share publicly. Sign number 1, hypervigilance toward risk. David looks at a stock market rally and sees wealth. Someone with traumatic intelligence looks at it and asks, where is the trap? This vigilance is often mistaken for pessimism, but in reality, it's an incredibly sophisticated risk forecasting algorithm. If you grew up in a family where the rent was a giant question mark every month, your brain automatically scans for every worst-case scenario before it can even think of the good stuff. In investing, this is a superpower. While the crowd excitedly rushes into financial bubbles, you are the only one standing at the emergency exit. You don't have FOMO, fear of missing out. You have a fear of getting trapped. When I go to negotiate an investment deal, I don't just look at the numbers. I look at how the partner holds their glass of water, how they avoid eye contact when mentioning operating costs, and their breathing rhythm when talking about profits. People with traumatic intelligence often had to learn to read the emotions of adults from a young age to protect themselves. When entering the business world, this ability turns into a human-powered lie detector. You can sense a business deal smells fishy, even when everything on paper is perfect. David calls it a hunch. I call it behavioral data analysis at the speed of light. Sign number 3, extreme resourcefulness. Give David $1,000 and he'll buy a new iPhone. Give someone with traumatic intelligence $1,000 and they'll find a way to turn it into $5,000 within a month. Why? Because they understand the true value of a dollar. They've been in situations where a single dollar was the boundary between having dinner or going hungry. They don't look at an item and see its utility. They look at it and see a liquid asset. They know how to leverage every relationship, every market loophole, and every free resource to reach their goal. For them, a lack of money has never been the problem. A lack of ideas is the real problem. These first 3 signs are just the tip of the iceberg. The following signs will dive deep into how your brain processes chaos and why those who have been crushed are often the calmest investors when the market collapses. If you feel like you have these signs, don't worry. You aren't damaged. You just possess a more powerful processor than the average person. Are you starting to see these scars as assets yet? Continuing the journey into the hidden corners of the mind that David, and perhaps most people, never managed to reach. Sign number 4, an icy composure in crises. Imagine this. The stock market suddenly evaporates 30% of its value in a single week.
David panics. He stares at his phone screen, sees the sea of red, and feels like the world is ending. He rushes to sell everything at the lowest point because he simply cannot handle the psychological pressure. And me? I brew a cup of tea and sit back to observe. Why? Because the brain of someone who has weathered adversity has already rehearsed for the worst-case scenarios. In psychology, we call this high-level emotional regulation.
When you have faced the prospect of having no home to return to, or not knowing where your next meal is coming from, a 30% dip in a brokerage account is merely a technical issue.
You don't let fear take the wheel.
You know that every storm eventually passes, and most importantly, you already have a survival plan in place. While others are running in circles, you are the one buying up their assets for pennies on the dollar. Sign number 5, the escape hatch mentality. David enters every investment deal thinking, I'm going to be rich. I enter every deal thinking, if things go south, how do I get out? People with traumatic intelligence possess a fierce survival instinct. They never put all their eggs in one basket without a rock-solid backup plan. This isn't a lack of confidence, it is wisdom. You always know exactly where your stop loss is. You always have a stash of FU money tucked away in the safest possible place. This mindset ensures you are never backed into a corner. You can take bigger risks than others simply because you have already calculated the cost of failure and you know you can endure it. Sign number 6, distinguishing need from want with surgical precision. David is constantly swept up in consumer trends. He buys luxury items just because everyone else has them. He confuses the desire for social validation with his actual personal needs. Conversely, if you have traumatic intelligence, you possess an incredibly sharp filter. You know exactly what is essential for survival and growth. Why? Because you've been in a position where you had to cut away every luxury just to stay alive.
You understand that a $10,000 watch doesn't help you manage time any better than a $100 one.
This immunity to peer pressure is a massive financial advantage. While David spends money to buy the admiration of others, you spend money to buy your own freedom. You don't need stuff to prove your self-worth, because that worth was forged in the trials you've already conquered. Sign number 7, the ability to connect disconnected data points. Those who have lived through adversity often develop a multidimensional ability to observe. They don't look at events in isolation. They see the connection between a small change in economic policy and its eventual impact on the pockets of ordinary workers. In their past, recognizing subtle shifts in their environment was the key to avoiding trouble. Now, in the financial world, they can predict market trends based on the noise that experts usually ignore. David trusts the talking heads on TV. I trust what I observe in real life, and usually, reality is always one step ahead of the news. If David is a great surfer on calm waters, someone with traumatic intelligence is the person who has learned to navigate right through a Category 12 hurricane. Sign number 8, the power to rebuild.
Biggest difference between David and me isn't the amount of money in the bank. It's the reaction when that money disappears.
David is terrified of losing everything because he doesn't know what he would do without the support of his company or his family. But if you possess this kind of intelligence, you aren't afraid of resetting to zero.
Why? Because you've been there before.
You know that the skill of making money and the survival mindset reside in your head, not in the numbers on a screen. These people have an incredible financial bounce-back speed. It might take them 10 years to build wealth for the first time, but if they lose it all, They only need 2 years to get it all back. They don't waste time mourning. They get to work picking up the pieces and building something even sturdier. Sign number 9, the bullshit filter. In the financial world, especially in the US, you are bombarded with promises: get rich quick, risk-free investment, millionaire lifestyle overnight.
David is easily swept up in this glamour. But for you, someone who has been slapped awake by life, you have an incredibly ruthless filter.
You see right through the rented Lamborghinis used for photo shoots, the shiny suits, and the fake growth charts.
You understand one thing: if it's too good to be true, it's usually not true.
You prioritize core values, actual cash flow, and tangible assets. This clarity helps you escape 99% of the financial scams that book-smart people like David often fall for. Sign number 10, Antifragile. This is the ultimate sign of traumatic intelligence. This concept from Nassim Taleb describes things that don't just withstand shocks, but actually get better because of them. Your muscles need to be torn to grow stronger. Your financial mindset is the same. When the market crashes, David is damaged.
But
You've designed your system to take advantage of the chaos. You have cash reserves to buy cheap assets when everyone else is panicking. You have multiple income streams so that if one disappears, the others still feed you. You don't just survive adversity. You turn adversity into the fuel that drives your breakthrough. The double-edged sword, a warning. I want to share a profound truth that took me many years to understand. Traumatic intelligence is a double-edged sword.
if you aren't careful, your brain will stay stuck in survival mode forever.
You will make a lot of money because you are afraid of being poor, but you will never feel truly happy or safe. You will be like a soldier who still wears his armor, even after he has returned home. The secret of truly successful people is that they know how to transform this intelligence from fear into purpose. They use their vigilance to protect their assets, but they also learn to open their hearts to new opportunities. They use their resourcefulness to create value for society, not just to hoard for themselves.
When you achieve this, your wealth will know no bounds. How to activate your superpower.
If you recognize at least 5 out of these 10 signs in yourself, congratulations. You possess an invisible asset worth millions.
Here is how to activate it.
Accept the past. Don't be ashamed of the hardships you've endured. Treat them as expensive tuition for the financial genius training program you've completed. Audit your system. Look at your investment portfolio and your spending. Are you over-defending, or are you attacking intelligently? Use your risk instinct to optimize instead of letting it paralyze you. Build your freedom fund. Turn anxiety into action by building a reserve fund that no one can touch.
When you know you have a way out,
Your brain will function 10 times more creatively. Traumatic intelligence is a painful gift, but it is the most precious gift life can hand an investor. It gives you the eyes to see the truth, the heart to endure pressure, and the brain to turn trash into pure gold.
David might have a better starting point, but you are the one with the capacity to go the furthest. Because you don't just know how to make money,
You know how to survive and rise from the ashes. I am Tony, and remember, your greatest challenges are the greatest teachers of wealth.
see you in the next video.